Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO, and we are here at Maple Street Biscuit Company in Miramar Beach, Florida on the Emerald Coast. I tell you what, we truly have a blast here. I got to give my hats off to the Maple Street corporate team and what they've created because they have done a phenomenal job internally. This is something I think from a teamwork standpoint, when you watch a company come into a new location where the employment pool is very, very tight, it's very, very competitive, but to be able to create a team that is basically just a small crew, and every day somebody may come or go, call in sick. This crew, from the time they open to the time they close, just jam it out. I mean, they are on top of it in the front of the house, the back of the house. This is something that you can see company-wide. Doesn't matter what Maple Street you walk into, you will find the culture there is quite a bit the same because they train and coach their people that way. And I just think that is awesome. Hey, hats off to Freddie Sheets and Allen's Cooling. I'll be visiting them for a therapy session tomorrow after our weekend show. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to have some fun. Hey, I want to talk today about how do you know where your customers are? Who do you know how to define your competitors? And this came up because I was in a conversation with Ted Knighton over at Business for Home and a few other guys this morning on Facebook. And I thought, man, there's a deeper message. And what they were talking about is how many companies have to merge and why are those mergers taking place. And I thought, man, let's dig a little deeper into this. Let's look at this not just from the corporate standpoint, but let's look at it from a personal branding standpoint. You who happen to be in the field, you who are building independent teams or main street businesses, where does it go wrong? How do you define where that true customer is? How do you even define your competitor? So many times that in and of itself is an issue. And I'm gonna take something that Ken Schmidt teaches and wrote about many, many years ago. If you don't know who Ken is, Ken was the director of communications for Harley Davidson when they were going through one of their largest slumps. Chinese manufacturers were dominating at the time. They were losing their voice. Nobody knew really who or what Harley Davidson stood for. And when I look at some of the stuff he wrote and parallel that into the gig economy, into freelancing, what most of the people that watch the show are about, I realize that it's really the same. When you go out there, if you're in direct sales, let's use this as an example. When you go out to the majority of the direct sales industry and you look at their websites, it doesn't matter if you're in a party plan company, an MLM, some type of an agency system like a Primerica or a Keller Williams or Legal Shield. Here's what you find. All the websites look the same. All the marketing is the same. The way the people talk are the same. There's no unique differentiation that's there. Once in a while, you'll see some leader in the field that creates something that makes them stand out. But when you're just doing your due diligence, when a customer's doing the due diligence, nothing stands out. I challenge you, just go check this out and see what I'm talking about. But those companies, those individuals that become the dominator in that niche, whatever that is, it could be the health and wellness, could be cosmetics, it could be real estate, it could be insurance, doesn't matter. Those that dominate, they actually know who their true competitor is. They know who exactly their customer is and what it is they need to go for. They look different, they feel different, the culture is different. And when you think about this, let's go back to Harley Davidson for a second. If you're standing on a street corner and a bunch of Asian bikes come down the road, they all sound the same. You couldn't differentiate a Suzuki from a Honda, from a Kawasaki, just doesn't happen. But yet, blocks away, you can hear that deep roar, that rumble of a Harley Davidson motorcycle. It's something that's unique. It's something no one else has really been able to copy. It's their unique noise that's there. Now, when we take that and we put it onto a personal side, what is your uniqueness? Are you trying to be like everybody else? Are you trying to mimic or model what somebody else is doing? We know that in the sales community across the board, it doesn't matter what the industry is, we're taught, and this is an old teaching method, but it's the way it's been taught for decades, and that is you need to be having a system. That system needs to be followed. Just do what I tell you to do. It worked for me, it's going to work for you. Maybe it worked for them, or maybe it didn't. When we look at the sales profession, no matter what the, no matter what the industry is, what we end up seeing is a high attrition rate. It just goes and goes and goes. Systems are needed, processes are needed to coach somebody, to train somebody. But when it comes to actually putting together your brand, how you're going to dominate in your niche, it's not about somebody else's system. It's about what works for you. Each of our DNA is different. Each of our limiting beliefs are different. Where we come from is different. What we're comfortable with is different. We're taught a lot of times that to grow, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Totally believe that, but getting out of your comfort zone doesn't mean changing your personality. It means learning how to overcome those fears and move forward. When Harley-Davidson, when Ken Schmidt was getting them out of the slump that they were in, when he was looking back at both their history and where they wanted to go in the future, it dawned on him that he was looking at the wrong competitors. That as a company-wide, they were looking at the wrong competitors. And I think that's what most salespeople do. Most salespeople look at their competitors as somebody in a different company. Okay, it's one giant ocean and everybody's fishing from the same pond, but yet everyone is focused on looking like each other. So there is no unique differentiator. There's nothing that's there, and the customers can't figure out either. And especially when you're looking at your competition versus where are my customers? See, when you're fishing from the same pond, sooner or later it's empty. That's not where your competitors are. Here's what Harley-Davidson did. They started studying who their true competitor is. In their case, middle-aged, white, middle-class American. That was what their focus was. If they're going to turn the ship around as a U.S. manufactured motorcycle, where was their competitor? Where was their customer at? If they weren't buying their bikes, then they had to be somewhere else. What was it? Most people would probably answer, well, Troy, had to be, Kawasaki, or it was Indian, or it was Honda. It's not the true statement, but that's the typical answer, because we look at the wrong place for our competitors. See, their real competitor was the golf industry. See, if a man, which is basically, it's a demographic deal, most golfers are white, they're middle-aged, middle income, they take the weekend and they go hit a ball around 18 holes. Then they set inside a 19th hole and they drink beer, get a cocktail, whatever. That's where their true customers were at. So if their true customers were on a golf course, guess what? Harley-Davidson's competitor was the golfing industry. And they had to figure out, how do we get that man from the golf course onto a motorcycle and driving down the road? See, that's the key. Most of us are looking in the wrong spot for our competitor. We're looking in the wrong spot for the customer. Two companies, one a client, one isn't, that have really done a phenomenal job inside of the direct sales industry, the community-based marketing industry, to shift this culture is Lavelle and Prove It. When you look at Lavelle doesn't talk about their competition. They don't talk about compensation. They don't do it. What they did was they honed in on what they wanted, or what they saw their true customers' needs were. And they created this whole brand called Thrive. Now, is it a brand? This is an argument. This is something to look at. Is it a brand, or is it an experience? And what is it that the customer's looking for? Are they looking for a brand where they're going to feel good? Or are they looking for an experience that just may happen to be created by the brand? This is a key. Go back to Harley Davidson for a second and think this one through. When you're sitting on that bike and you have that power underneath you and it's revving up and you know that you've got this freedom to go down the highway, it isn't really the brand that's creating that experience. However, once you're on it, the culture that's surrounded in Harley Davidson does become something that's passionate. It's a tribe. When you look at what Harley Davidson represents, it goes anywhere from a one percenter outlaw biker club to a CEO of a Fortune 50 company will ride a hog. Men, women today, it doesn't matter. It's across the board. So let's dig this in. I don't want to keep y'all all day long, but I want to dig into this for a minute. What is your uniqueness? What is the noise that you want to be heard above all of the rhetoric that's out there today? Is it the noise of the company? Is it the noise of the culture in which you're marketing for, or is it you personally? You know, I've got a family that I've just at a distance have gotten to know a little bit, and I watch them on Facebook. It's called the Unstoppable Family, and you can go to their fan page and check this out. It's just a beautiful couple and their daughter. I'm not going to give their name because I want to talk about the brand for a second. What they did was they created not just one brand, the Unstoppable Family, but off the Unstoppable Family comes the Unstoppable Surfer. It comes their branding company. It comes their daughter's clothing line. Doesn't matter what it is. When you look at this, you start to realize, okay, wait a minute. We don't have to change who we are. We just need to create the uniqueness that we are. People have to fall in love with you. They have to know why they should be part of your organization. They need to figure out what it is that you can do to help solve either their problem or give them some pleasure, whichever the case is. But to do that, you've got to figure this out on your own. You've got to be able to say, okay, what do I want to stand for? What do I want to be known for? I've got a new client, a couple that I'll be working with this afternoon on this specific thing. Because he called me up and said, look, I'm just known as the guy in the company. I don't want to be known as the guy in the company. The company may disappear. I want people to know what we stand for. Okay, well, let's figure this out, man. Let's dig deep. This isn't something, folks, that you're going to do overnight. You need to study and study and study on this. You need to enable a team around you to say, okay, what is my uniqueness? What is it that I stand for? What am I trying to accomplish? What is my purpose, my mission, my vision, whatever terminology you use, you have to be able to put this together. Because if you just look like everybody else, and you're just doing what everybody else does, then you're not dominating, you're not rising above the noise that's out there. You're just another has-been, run-of-the-mill guy trying to peddle something, trying to get somebody to join your business, whatever the case is. When we go up and down Main Street, think about this for a minute. I'm going to use our life here in Destin on the Emerald Coast. Man, we got a boatload of restaurants. There's some restaurants nobody even thinks about, nobody even talks about, because basically they're not rising above the noise. But then there's some restaurants who have taken a uniqueness to themselves. They either focus in on the tourism trade and they know that about 9 months out of the year they're going to be cranking and then they're going to relax. Or they focus on the locals that are here and they say, look, we just want a whole culture that's going to be for the locals. And they build that around the people that they're serving. They know specifically what their customer base is and what they want to do. You know, throwing this back to Maple Street, you know, watching the Maple Street business here, they know they've got to ramp up during tourist season, that the majority of the people that are going to walk through these doors are going to be tourists. But they know that in the wintertime, the people that are going to be here are snowbirds that live here for an extended period of time. They're going to be other shop owners that are in and out of the shop, and it's going to be the locals. Know who your customers are. Know what it is. Dominators, if you're going to dominate, you've got to know on a personal level, not on a corporate level now. You've got to look at who am I really competing against? Let's look at a convoluted industry right now across the board, but it's interesting to see, and I've been doing an 18-month study on this. It's the quote-unquote training or coaching industry. Okay, you see in sales, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in life insurance, if you're in real estate, if you're in network marketing, MLM, whatever. Doesn't matter. Sales trainers seem to be all the same. They overlap. You know, back in the 80s and 90s, it was Tony Robbins was the big dominator. He had a uniqueness. It was all on his own. Nobody was competing with it. You had Tom Hopkins, totally training in a different way, and he was dominating. You had Zig Ziglar. No one could compete with Zig Ziglar. He had a uniqueness. There was something to him. Jim Rohn. There wasn't 14 Jim Rohns. There was Jim Rohn. You know, when you look at this, when you go back and look at this, everyone had this unique identifier. They knew who they were, they knew what their message was, and they knew who they wanted to go after. Today, when I look at all the trainers out there, there might be a handful that have a uniqueness that's going to benefit somebody. Let's look at Gary Vee for a second. Man, Gary's got a passionate personality. He can use the F word in so many different ways. He should have been a chef because he creates this magic, if you will, with the F word. But what is it that you can take home? What is he training on that you can apply into your life? Now, for me, the boy puts together some great videos. We've been able to look at what he's done and do that. We grabbed one nugget that we can use. Simple as that. Look at Tony Robbins. Tony's still doing the same thing that he's always done. He's not differentiated himself. He's not deviated from what he's done. He just focused. Now, he extended to where he's working with a bunch of internet marketers now, and he's doing some cool stuff. But for the most part, his training has not changed whatsoever. It is still the same thing that he's always done. Let's look at Grant Cardone. You know, Grant is an interesting individual because it's not so much what he trains on. I mean, his 10X theory is pretty powerful. It's pretty cool. I know some guys that have done it. Most people can't apply it to their lives. Here's where his uniqueness is, though. He just brings in other people from other industries that are the influencers. The Brian Crothers, the Eric Worre, the Ray Hignans on his show. Then what happens is, oh my gosh, my hero is on his show. I better go buy his books. But there's not a uniqueness, the majority of people. Everything is the same. When we hone it down into real estate or network marketing or all this, I would contend that the majority of the coaching and training that's there is all antiquated and it's old. It doesn't work. It's something that was great for the 20th century, maybe the turn of the 21st century, but it doesn't apply today. The people in the training industry that have continued to rise up, continued to rank up, if you will, are those that who and in themselves have created their uniqueness to rise above the noise. They've honed in specifically on just a group of people that they believe they can serve. They're life-giving leaders, if you will. They're not chasing their tail. They're not has-beens. Their noise is heard, and it's not heard because they're saying it. It's because the customers they serve are saying it. You don't see Harley Davidson going out there and saying we're the best. Never happens. What you see in a Harley Davidson commercial are their customers riding the bike, having an experience, enjoying the culture, and then sharing it with others. That's what it is. So if you want to dominate, if you want to get your act together, then figure out what your uniqueness is. Take the weekend to start the process and ask yourself just one question. What am I good at? What is the one thing I want to be known for? What is my purpose? Just one. What is it that you're supposed to do? That's the key, guys. That's what you want to do. That's how Maple Street became Maple Street. It's how Harley Davidson became Harley Davidson. It's how Tony Robbins becomes a Tony Robbins. Who and what do you want to be known for? I would even go a step further, and some of you, this may freak out. Write your epitaph. What is it that you want people to say? What is it you want on your tombstone? What do you want to be remembered as? Because that's going to be the key on where you go from here if you want to dominate, no matter what your industry is. Folks, stay humble, stay strong, and remember, you've been listening to the voice of Main Street America.